Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 378 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels, coming to you from Sandusky, Ohio, and thanks for checking out this episode. This is the 18th, the final club preview episode for 2025. And in just a moment, I am going to be joined by Ragnar from the Never Surrender podcast, and we are going to be previewing that trendy club, the GWS Giants, for 2025. All right, folks. Now, don't forget you can find everything about my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll head over there and subscribe for the mailing list so that when new episodes come out, they'll be in your inbox within about 20 minutes of after they're released. Also, head over to my YouTube channel as well and subscribe over there and turn on notifications. I'm getting my back catalog of the 2025 previews up there. I think I've got the first 8 uploaded as of right now, and I'll have the rest of them soon. And I will also be doing my 2025 ladder predictions. I'm actually doing 2 ladder predictions this year because I think you could make a case for there needing to be 2 ladders being predicted this year. So, without any further ado, folks, let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Ragnar from the Squinters Never Surrender podcast. I'm going to enjoy this one. Cheers. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again for the 18th and final preview episode for 2025. And you have to ask the question, since this is a rhetorical one for everybody. Are we saving the best for last? This is a top 4 side that has a lot of expectations for this year. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Ragnar from the Never Surrender podcast from the Squinters. Ragnar, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm well. I'm well. Yeah, really anticipating the start of the season. It's not far away, so yeah, excited, but also a little bit of trepidation about what may lay ahead.
Yeah, it's and seeing the results of your final tune-up before the season started, you're looking at that going, it's the final tune-up, everything is okay. It's like Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House, remain calm, all is well.
Yeah,
But
I look at those 2 games.
yeah.
So against Sydney, we haven't performed well over the last couple of years, and Carlton, yes, they've got a lot of injuries at the moment, but they've got so much depth,
Hmm.
and their depth is, and it's the same with Sydney. They're both Carlton and Sydney. I see them as similar teams. They've got a lot of high-end talent, and their depth is all about 24, 25 years old or older.
Hmm.
Whereas the Giants, we have a ton of top-end talent, but our depth is all 21 years or younger. And I watched us play a lot of games last year, obviously, and there were a lot of games where we were going in as favourites, but no one talked about it on the telecast. But we actually had games experience wise, we were much younger and much more inexperienced side than the teams we were going up against because
Right,
we've
right.
got so many players that are still under 100 games. Um, yeah, so there's a bit of a gap. We've got a top line a top chunk of players like Toby Green, Lockie Whitfield, Stephen Cornelio, Josh Kelly. They're all 200 games plus, and
Hmm.
then we've got a lot of players that are 100 games and under, but there's none in that middle. Well, there's a few in that middle chunk, but three of them left, or 2 of them left in the off season. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah,
So, you had some great success last year. You finished top 4. Um, the season did not end the way that you wanted, kind of limping out, and maybe limping's not the right word. You dropped the final game of the fixture to the Bulldogs and then went out in straight sets by less than 2 goals combined.
yeah.
Have you looked back on that and watched those games again and said, if this didn't happen here or that didn't happen there or this was different or that just 3 centimeters here, we're moving on to the playing the prelim.
Yeah, I mean, as with all sport, there's a little bit of luck involved, and you need
Hmm.
you need that little bit of luck to make it the whole way. And to be honest, we actually had that little bit of luck throughout the year, and we won a few close games. We had a game against Carlton. I think we were 7 goals down in the first quarter or something, and we came back and beat them um, during the minor round games.
Hmm.
But yeah, we just didn't have that little bit of luck come end of the season, and that's just how things go.
So, um, looking at the year coming up here, is a top four finish enough? Can it be considered successful? And I've been asking this of clubs that have very high expectations. Can it be considered a successful season if you end up with a top four finish and maybe make it into a prelim but not into a grand final? Can you still look back at that one, based, as you said, based upon having the really good older talent and that younger talent who you're in many ways you're a lot like they're almost like a North Melbourne type situation where you're trying to get those kids the game experience to help them catch up to those older guys before their window of their
Yeah,
career closes shut on them.
yeah. Can it be considered a success if we don't finish top four? It it's tough because you really want to see, and the club really wants to see those guys that have hung around, your Toby Greens, Lockie Whitfield, Cornelio, Kelly,
Hmm.
um, and Callum Wardy. He's gone around again because he knows that the success isn't far off, and we were that close last year.
Right,
So,
right.
can it be considered a success? I think it can still be considered a success. It's probably not a. I'd say top six. If we finish in the top six
Yeah.
and win a final, I think that can be considered a success.
Okay.
But if we don't win a final, then I'd say it's a failure. There you go.
Okay. I That makes complete sense. Now, I you have to be buoyed and feeling good about the fact that Finn Callahan decided not to take, to say he's going to take an offer elsewhere, and he wants to stay where he's looking at it and sees he's got a shot at winning himself, a premiership maybe with the guys that he's grown into the game with there. So, I mean, that's got to
Yeah,
make Giant supporters feel pretty darn good.
yeah. I think he sees, especially that talent group around his age group, say
Mhm.
25 years and under. So you've got, let's list some names. We 25 years and younger. We've got Sam Taylor, Brent Daniels, Lockie Ash, Connor Iden, Tom Green, Jake Riccardi, Jack Buckley, Toby Bedford, Kieran Briggs,
Yeah.
Finn Callahan, and then you get to the younger guys like your Aaron Cadmans and Harvey Thomas, Darcy Jones, Connor Stone, Leclerc. So there's definitely a lot of talent in that group, and yeah, you listen to interviews with players that have left the Giants, and they always say how much of a family club the Giants were, and how yeah, and how inclusive it all is, and
Well,
so yeah, I
were
can see why he'd want to stay.
were they considered a family club mainly because you were, those players that were there in the early days? I mean, you were still trying to build up, and you could argue you're still trying to build up a supporter base because, attendance at the games is still not, I'm sure, what the club would like it to be. I know the membership got up over, I think, over 36,000 last year, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so almost 37,000 last year. So, maybe they can get to 40,000, and then they just got to get people to actually come out to the ground and watch the games as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Like in Western Sydney, especially getting that buy-in from the locals to
Hmm.
support, especially when the NRL clubs are so strong, like the rugby leagues clubs are so strong out
Right.
in that region, as well as the soccer. Yeah, yeah, it's tough to really wrestle them across into the Aussie rules game. I think it will grow. And I mean, you can't really compare it to Sydney because Sydney have a lot of ex-Melbourne expats from Melbourne who have moved up to Sydney, and they've
Right.
got a
Right.
lot of those. So yeah, I yeah, I think
So do you
yeah,
do you think that some of this that you've got the bump up in membership to where you're over almost 37,000 now, which is still at the lower end of all the clubs, but it's much better than it had been. and you got people who are showing their support by getting memberships, but is it a situation where people have a finite amount of disposable income to use to go to the NRL, to soccer, to footy, and they've got to decide where do they want to put their entertainment dollars?
Yeah, 100%. And I think in Sydney especially because it's so expensive to live in Sydney as
That's
well,
what I
even
hear.
even out in that western region. I think a lot of our good support actually comes from Canberra and the members that we have in
Hmm.
Canberra. Um, I, it's a tough one. Like whether we play more games in Canberra or it's tough because then you're sort of losing your identity and you get moving away from more of the GW Greater Western Sydney Giants and you're moving more towards like a a uh,
A
a blend between
club that's
Canberra and
yeah.
yeah.
Now, and I have not seen this anywhere, and I'm asking only because you're much more closely following the club. There's not been any sort of discussions or rumblings that have come around that have said maybe the club should just move to Canberra permanently or anything like that. Has there been?
There's it would never be admitted by the AFL because the
Okay.
AFL sees well they built this team because they see the massive growth area that is Western Sydney.
Hmm.
I don't know the particular number, but I think there's 2 or 3 million people out in that region alone.
Yeah.
Um, and so they see that's where the growth is, and Canberra, yeah, again, is always going to support us or support Aussie rules.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, and again, that was not me, trying to say, hey, maybe they should consider doing that. I just didn't know if that was something that had been discussed. Because yeah, when they invest when the clubs, when the league puts the investment that they put into getting GWS off the ground, who's had a huge amount of success in a short period of time in the great grand scheme of things, and then you look at them, in comparison to what's gone on in Gold Coast, who, you know, have
Yeah,
scuffled throughout much of their early history and as I've mentioned this, it's almost like I think deep down, and again, they may not admit it, but the league is probably quietly saying we need Gold Coast to play finals to just kind of legitimize the investment that we've made in that club. All we've said to these other 17 clubs, you need to help contribute to keeping this one running. They need them playing finals for that reason alone, I think.
yeah, I think with the Gold Coast and the AFL, the AFL tried to do that last year. If
Hmm.
you look at the Gold Coast fixture last year, it was the easiest draw, and they still choked. I, and again this year they've got a very easy draw again. I know they play Richmond twice. I'm not sure who else they play twice, but yeah, if they don't at least make the eight, I don't know what they're
They've
going
got
to do up,
well,
up
they've
up there
got
on the Gold Coast.
they've got a pretty tough doubling up. They've got Brisbane, GWS, Essendon, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Richmond, as you said. So no West Coast, no
Okay,
North Melbourne, no St. Kilda.
yeah,
Clubs that you might think may find themselves, outside outside the eight, possibly. Although
okay,
I think you could make a valid argument this year, and I'm actually when I do my ladder predictions. I'm actually doing two of them. I'm going to do my
yeah,
actual ladder prediction, but then I'm also going to be doing one where I'm going to be using props because I legitimately think you could make a case for 16 clubs to play finals this year.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think you
I
could. So
think
I'm going to
yeah,
I'm going to do a ladder prediction just at random
yeah,
with these props to just see here's how at random it's coming out and try to explain why this could possibly be the case.
yeah. I
And then I'll
like
do
it.
my
I
actual one.
like it.
Yeah,
I
so
like it.
we'll see. Maybe I'll get some airtime on, maybe some, crazy TV show will say, "Oh, look at this silly ladder here." I mean, I did tip Brisbane to win the whole damn thing last year, so I got that right.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard
Yeah.
that last week
So,
in your last podcast.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are the things that you're hoping not to see, but what are the things that you're going to be looking for? Or if you do see, you're going to go, okay, things are not going the way that we want them. So, what are the things you hope not to see this year? If you're going to not be successful, what are going to be the benchmarks to demonstrate that?
I think number one for us is we need to fit Kieran Briggs. If our ruckman goes down, we don't really have a replacement, which is something that really annoyed me in the off season. We didn't actively go and recruit a 25-year-old ruckman
Mm-hmm.
even as a backup. Um, it's really worrying because even last year, Kieran Briggs had a lot of shoulder injuries, and he carried them through game after game. And we've got two young ruckmen, um, Nick Madden and
And Logan
Logan
Smith,
Smith,
right?
um, but they both haven't played a game yet.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see Nick Madden play a game this year. But essentially, our second ruckman is Lockie Keefe, and he's 35 this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, the Cats have one of those too. So, and
yeah,
so does Essendon, at least 35, if not 135. I'm not sure how old Todd Goldstein is, but he's getting up
yeah,
there.
yeah. So that's one thing that I'm really worried about. Something else that I see could be a fault in the Giants list is probably our midfield. We've got a lot of talent in there, but
Hmm.
we just don't seem to click. Um, we got dominated. I know they're just preseason games, but we got dominated against Sydney and dominated by Carlton, both out in the midfield, and especially with Tom Green missing the first
Yes.
two or three games of the season.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's a little bit of a worry, and I wouldn't be surprised if Collingwood stitch us up in the opening round.
Yeah, that's in the midfield, I think so, but I still Collingwood's one that I'm not sure I'm going to put in the eight this year.
Yeah,
They're they are a veteran side, and I've talked to people who have said, well, that veteran presence, can lead you to more wins. I said that's true, but I said you could also, all of them could hit a wall and just
yeah,
kind of start to, slow down at the same time. It's a possibility,
mm,
so you have to leave somebody outside the eight when you're making your ladder predictions anyway.
yeah, yeah,
And why and
yeah,
why not Collingwood just to tick them off, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So speaking of Collingwood, um, do you like the idea of the round zero? Because you're hosting them again this year, and I'm going to ask that as part of a follow up. I've not heard much from Mason Cox this preseason regarding the game up there.
I think he's been a bit quiet, hasn't he? Did you see the props that the Giants put out for him last year?
I did, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, hilarious. No, they're pretty good at stirring the pot, the Giants.
yeah.
Yeah, what was your first question again?
Your thought on the round zero, where you guys, where
Round zero.
the Queensland and the New South Wales clubs get kind of a jump start playing a home game up there, and the AFL is kind of planting their flag in NRL territory and saying we're here
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, well, I think the AFL is doing it mainly because the NRL is going to Vegas and
Yeah, yeah.
playing their games in Vegas, and they're trying to capture that audience. I mean,
Hmm.
the AFL will probably say it's successful because the Giants crowd will be up, but that'll mainly be because of Collingwood members travelling up to Sydney to watch them play. But in saying that, um, looking at the weather forecast, and there's meant to be a hell of a lot of rain this coming week in Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Sydney.
Hmm.
So that might actually stave the crowds off a bit, and it's also a worrying thing for the Giants because I think with our lighter bodies in the wet, it's going to make it a bit of a difficulty taking on the Pies' bigger bodies, more
Yeah,
experienced team.
yeah. I mean, they've got tons of talent. I do think, you having, still it being on your home ground, what do they? I think if any ground that's not the MCG, I think that they affectionately refer to them as being cow paddocks, regardless of what it
Yeah,
is. Optus
yeah,
Optus Stadium is a cow paddock because it's not the
yeah, yeah,
MCG, and the Adelaide
yeah.
Oval a cow paddock because it's not the MCG. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I don't know the names of any of this, of any of the soccer stadiums in England because I don't follow soccer at all. But I'm sure that there's Collingwood supporters out there saying that every damn one of them, it's a cow paddock.
Yeah, I suppose the only one.
Wherever Chelsea plays, wherever Liverpool plays, they're all cow paddocks, and you just,
Yeah, I suppose the only one ones that aren't cow paddocks are those big college grounds in the States
oh
that hold over a
yeah,
hundred thousand.
yeah, yeah, like just a
Yeah,
couple hours south here from where I live in Ohio,
yeah,
in Ohio
yeah,
State. Yeah. Well, either way, I go 2 hours to the northwest or 2 hours to the south. I'm either at the University of Michigan or Ohio State. So both of them are
yeah,
seat well over 100,000 people. Yeah,
yeah. Wow,
exactly. Yeah. And I've never been to a game at either one of them. Uh,
wow.
so I watch them on TV, but that's about it. So, you didn't have a whole lot of turnover as far as the club goes this year. Um, but you did bring in one of the more enigmatic players in the comp. And I'm wondering how you think he's going to fit in Jake Stringer.
Well, we've got a group discussion with our podcast contributors, and one thinks he's. Do you remember Brett Deledio playing for the Giants?
I remember the name. I mean, I started following the
Yeah.
game in 2016, so I was still learning names and that sort of things. I have heard
So
the name.
Brett Deledio was a top one draft pick who played for Richmond Tigers,
Hmm.
and he endured all their tough years. And then I think it might have been 2015 or 2016, he actually went across to the Giants. It was a big news trade. The
Hmm.
Giants gave up a first round draft pick, or maybe even two, for Brett Deledio, and he barely got on the park. He got injured and hamstrings, soft tissue injuries. Anyway, one of our contributors think that the Jake Stringer recruit might be similar to that. I'm I'm different. I think he's going to have a massive impact actually because at the Bombers, essentially for the last 10 years, he's been getting the best defender of the opposition. Um,
Yeah,
at
he's
the
certainly
Giants,
he's not
at
going to
the
get that
Giants,
with your group.
he's going to have like the third or fourth best
Holy,
defender
that's a great point.
because you've got Jesse Hogan up front,
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
the Coleman Medal winner
yeah.
last year. You've got Toby Green,
Hmm.
and you've got Aaron Cadman, who's just starting to hit his straps now.
Yes, yes.
Turning 21 this year, and he's played
Wow,
35 games.
wow.
Um, so so
So,
it's pretty exciting to see, and I can see Jake String actually spending a bit of time going through the midfield
mhm.
and along with Toby Green. So I think they're going to be like a bit of a 1-2 where and Brent Daniels as well. So I think
Yeah.
those three will go. The two of them will be in the forward line at any one time, and one will be in the midfield, and cycling through like that.
So the Giants didn't petition the league to allow them to play with one more than one ball at a time, did they? I mean, that's gonna. I mean, that's a lot of options there. I mean, again, as I said, looking, there were clubs that would say they would trade lists with you. I mean, they would. You got folks that would probably trade their top four scoring options for your top four scoring options in a heartbeat as well. I mean,
Uh,
it's an
I
enviable
think,
position for you to be in.
yeah, I've looked at a lot of the predictions from various news sites over the preseason, and a lot of them have the Giants at the top. I'm not quite there.
Yeah.
I can understand our forward line and our back line. You could put arguments up that we've got the best forward line and the best back line in the competition. But our midfield, I think, even with the talent, I think there's still a little bit of left to be desired. I think we're probably, if I was to rank the Giants midfield, I'd rank them somewhere between 6 and 10
Okay.
in the comp. Um, but yeah, definitely either end of the ground, we're very, very strong.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good side. Very good side. I mean, you're um, and Sam Taylor just was, it was lousy to see him go out dinged up last year because he was,
Yeah.
terrific player. One of
And
the best defenders in the comp.
he wasn't the same player when he came back
Yeah.
last year, and he's looked a little bit off in the preseason games. But I think him with Jack Buckley, and then you've got Harry Himmelberg, Connor Ryden, um, and I'm a little bit worried about. I think they're going to try Connor Stone. He's only played 13 games. He's 22 years old now. He was
Hmm.
I think he was 15 or something, maybe 4 years ago. Um, he's sort of got the nod to be slotted into the back line, and then you've got your Lockie Ash and Lockie Whitfield across halfback as well. So, but we will miss Harry Perryman. Like he's gone to the Magpies.
Well, no, you'll get to see him
Um,
round one or
yeah,
round
yeah,
zero.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't just those three players left, like Harry Perryman, Peatling, and Isaac Cumming.
Coming. Yeah.
Um, the thing that hurt us is their age demographic. Like they're all that 20, 25, 26,
Hmm.
27 years old. And that's the sort of core part of our list that we're missing. We've got, like I said earlier, we've got plenty of talent at the top and plenty of talent very young, but not much in that middle bracket.
Okay. I mean, it's a extraordinarily talented side, and as you said, you've got 2/3 of your you know 22 that you're putting on the ground are up towards the top, but and you've got all the pieces for your midfield to be very successful. You got some really good pieces. They just, as you said, you just need a little bit more continuity and that sort of thing
Mm.
from them. So who out of all these folks you've talked about, who are you the most excited about? Yeah, maybe it's somebody that maybe it's Jesse Hogan, defending his Coleman, but maybe there's somebody that's coming on this year that's worked their way into the side that you're just like, I cannot wait to see this young man play, 22 or 23 games for us this year.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. There's so many. Um, what I will say is the Giants over the last 2 or 3 years have gone very small forward heavy. So we're drafting a lot of very talented small forwards, fast
Hmm.
players, and there's none faster than Darcy Jones, the young fella who wears a helmet, and he played 14 games last year. He did his ACL in his first season, and so he could only play last year. But
Hmm.
the glimpses he showed, he's only very light. So he's listed at 63 kilograms, which is very, very light. I'd
It's like
say
it's
he
like about
might,
140 pounds. Man.
yeah, I'd say he's probably up to maybe 70 kilos now. But he's just absolutely lightning. Him and Brent Daniels in the same team is just the creativity and yeah, the danger that they show forward of the ball is just it's frightening for opposition.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun club to watch, and I think that even the the long running Victorian club supporters and such, I think they have to be cognizant of the fact that this is a pretty darn good club, and you can't take this team lightly because they can beat anybody. They
Yeah,
can beat
yeah,
absolutely anybody on any given day, and I think in the great grand scheme of things, and again, I've only been following the game for about a decade, and I think this is maybe the year that I think that that from one to, like I said, to 16. Because I'll be honest, I think West Coast, I think, is getting there, but they're not quite ready to move up yet. And Richmond is going to take a couple of years, and Richmond supporters just go back and look at 17, 19, and 20 and relish those, and
yeah,
realize that the 37 years prior to that, those sucked. But then look at your list now and realize that that list is not anything like the ones you had in those 37 years prior to those premierships. Okay. The glass
yeah,
is half full and there's a little faucet dripping very slowly into it. So just
yeah,
enjoy it. But it's so level right now. I mean, and I think that's a good thing.
yeah. I mean, that's what the AFL have always wanted.
Yeah.
They want an even competition. A lot of people argue back in the 80s and early 90s was when the AFL slash VFL was at its strongest. But
Hmm.
you look back then, and there were you'd have what? 8 games or 7 games a week, and 5 of them would be 50-point drubbings
Yeah.
plus, and there might be 2 close games. Whereas now you're actually getting a lot of very close games, and there's such fine margins, and that's where that little bit of luck comes in. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you might have one key player go down with an injury, and that blows your chance, or someone you kick inaccurately. I think that's a big part of the game at the moment. Like teams will lose simply because they haven't kicked straight, and a team that kicks straight win a game. Yeah, I think we won a game last year, and I forget who we played against, but we kicked something like 15 goals, 5,
Hmm.
and it might have been against Brisbane in the minor rounds, and they kicked very inaccurately, and we won the game.
Well, look at what happened to Adelaide 2 seasons ago.
Yeah,
Somebody evidently kicked accurately, and Adelaide missed out on finals,
yeah,
even though they didn't quite kick accurately. I'm I'm still waiting for them to actually put on top of the goalposts giant spotlights that shoot directly up. They're just a single beam of light, the
yeah, yeah,
same
yeah,
circumference of the goalpost. It just goes straight
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Doesn't have to be a
Uh,
laser that's going to impact flights or anything like that, but just a light that goes straight up that extends the
yeah.
goalposts, and this is I'm kidding about this, or automatically disallow a goal if the guy who kicks the ball kicks it higher than the height of the goalpost. I'm kidding about
Yeah.
that, but
Or why don't we take it a step further and just put lights in the ground and not have posts at all, and just shoot
oh,
the
that's
light
not a bad.
straight up from the ground, or even both ways. Have it going from both ways,
That's an
and so
interesting
you
idea. That's a very interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. I
yeah,
suppose Tim Broomhead would definitely be in favor of that. If
because
you remember
then
from a
it's
few years
obvious
ago.
if if the football passes through
Yeah.
it.
Or or and I've heard people propose this that like in gridiron football, if when they kick a field goal, if the ball hits the upright, the post, and goes through, it
Yeah,
still is considered a goal. You know,
yeah,
if they hit the
yeah. The
if they hit the goalpost, let it still be a goal if it goes through. I mean, and I'm
the
not trying to
AFL
change. I'm not trying to change footy rules. I'm just tossing it out there.
Yeah, the AFL did actually play around with that in one preseason competition,
Yeah.
and if the ball hit the post and it came back in play,
Hmm.
it was play on, and so the ball would be back in play. But if the ball hit the post and ricocheted through for a goal, it'd be a goal. If the ball hit the post and ricocheted through for a behind, it'd be a behind. So they did play around with that, but there was a bit of confusion, and the ball would come back in play, and then yeah,
Well,
it'd be.
it's yeah, it's not an easy solution. So maybe the lights on the ground, embedded into the ground is not a bad idea.
Yeah, but then I guess the only thing stopping that is someone stand when players are standing over the top of of that area. Does it stop the light coming up through?
Good point. Good point. Yeah, that could be. I mean, what the hell would Dane Rampy do with that?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's not climbing up that, is
let's
he?
let's be honest. Granted, he'd be out there with his black shorts, and he'd just be copping a squat on it. Then that wasn't a goal. Look at me. Look at me. I didn't climb it this time.
Uh,
I'm glad this came up in the GWS conversation. I really am.
yeah, yeah, sure.
So, looking at the at the club, are you worried? First of all, I guess, are you worried too much about Tom Green's injury, or is this just another opportunity for another younger player to come in and get some experience against AFL sides rather than against VFL sides?
Yeah, I think our starting midfield will still be very strong, but it's that depth that's going to be tested. So we're
Hmm.
still going to have you're still going to have Cornelio, Josh Kelly, um, and then you've got a few younger players coming through. So um, I'll give you a couple that I think are going to impact. I think that they're going to give a chance to Harry Rouston. So Harry Rowson was part of our academy a couple of years ago, and he's played 7 games.
Yep.
Um, the other one that I really liked, and I watched him play on the weekend just gone against Carlton, was James Leake. Um, he got drafted, not the draft just gone, the draft before.
Right. Right.
Um, and he didn't play a game last year, but I think he had a few injuries. But he's a big boy. He's listed at 77 kilos, but I'd
Right.
say he's close to he'd be at least 85 now. He's when I first saw him, I thought it was Callan Ward. He was sort of that sort of build.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's a bit bigger, so he's 188 centimeters. So I think I'd love to see them give him a go. And obviously, we're playing more of Finn Callahan through the middle of the ground as well.
Yeah. And
So
I was going to
uh,
say, do you worry about the, yeah, and it's several years down the road, but you got, young Mr. Leak, being from Tasmania. If this kid turns out to be somebody who contributes, is this one of those kids that says, yeah, this is a family here, but my
yeah,
family's also there. I mean and that's gonna be an issue for a lot, if for every club here coming up soon.
I see, and I mentioned this in our podcast when it was announced that Tassie were getting a team, and we drafted James Leake that
Hmm.
year. And I actually think that the AFL is going to step in and say, okay, um, we need to get this Tassie team up and going. Because when they announced that Tassie team for the AFL, there were 3 or 4 Tassie, really good top end Tassie players that got drafted that year.
Hmm.
And I think what the AFL is going to do, they're going to compensate the clubs that lose them. So they'll go to like a James Leake and they'll say, right, you can go back, but the Giants are going to get rewarded with, say, the same sort of pick that they picked you up at. So the Giants picked James Leake up. I forget, was he might have just been in the last pick
He was
17.
pick 17. Yep. Yeah, pick
Yeah,
17.
yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if the AFL go, right, this is what's going to happen. You can go back because you're a local and we want to promote the Tassie team,
Hmm.
which I think will be quite successful in pretty early days, like 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
into their existence. Um, and but the way I see James Leake developing, oh wow, I think he's going to be quite a player.
Yeah. I just, it's, your club does things the right way. I mean, they really do. And, let me ask a couple of, other things here before we start, winding down here. But, if you could make one rule change, would it be the light instead of the goalpost? Or do you have another one in mind that you're thinking, boy, I wish the league did this?
I I hate when the game gets really congested, and I like the 6-6-6 rule
Okay.
where players have to start in position. Um, but once that's stopped, once the ball's in play, it just gets all clogged up again, depending on what team you play.
Yeah.
Um, I think they need to blow their whistle faster um, in terms of, and they've been doing it over the preseason, but notoriously it'll revert back to the norm during the normal season. I'd like them to, if someone's tackled and it looks like it's going to be a ball up, the umpire just needs to blow his whistle. And the other thing with that, I hate the 2 ruckmen having to nominate. I think the umpire, as soon as he balls it up, as soon as he blows his whistle, he throws the ball up. If more than one player goes up from each team, then that team gets death penalised. So there can only be 2 people going up, but they don't need to nominate who they are.
Okay.
And so because half the time the ruckman will be 30 meters away and the umpire waits for them to run into screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's 15, 16 players converging on the contest.
Good point.
But if
Good
they
point.
throw it up straight away, all of a sudden, it opens the game up. But the AFL probably is worried that it might make the role of the ruckman a lot less, uh, I guess, a lot less important, and so clubs will go away from recruiting bigger guys and just more athletes.
Well, or they're going to have to figure out a way to find bigger guys who are more athletic.
Yeah,
Finding somebody that can cover a lot of ground. Somebody like a Luke Jackson, a Sam
yeah,
Draper, type
yeah,
player that can get from point A to point B fairly quickly. And I know of one that seems to be able to do it, and I don't know how quick he is, but somehow, for several years, I thought that Melbourne was actually playing with two or three Max Gons on the field because he
yeah.
was he was everywhere all the time.
Oh,
And
he's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and of course, yeah, I saw that he announced that he's in the best condition he's been in his life, which
Yeah.
if you're a conspiracy theorist, that means he's got something wrong with him and he just doesn't want anybody to know about it quite yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So you're going to be my second person that I asked this question to. Okay.
Okay.
And I know you listened to the first one. And folks, if you haven't listened to the Carlton preview, I got an answer to a question that I was absolutely not expecting from Terry Degani. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. But I was not expecting that response from him. So what is the one thing, and I'm not going to use the decade because the Giants haven't been around a whole lot longer than a decade. They've only been around a few years longer. So let's go back to the inception of the Giants. What's the one thing that you wish that the Giants could do over? That they went, okay, that was wrong. We shouldn't have done that. We could have done this, or the mistake that they made.
Yeah. I'm trying not to veer down the same path that the guy from Carlton went down.
You know what? You go right ahead, and it might even involve the Giants social media group for all we know. Because
Uh,
they are very good at what they do.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I won't path, but the one thing I wish the Giants didn't do or have done,
Hmm.
um, I'd say trading away Jeremy Cameron was a big stab to the heart of
Hmm. Yeah,
what of the club, and I mean the type of guy and type of player he was. I mean, if the Giants were to come out and name their best five players of all time, he's probably still in the top three,
okay,
if not one.
okay,
Talented, and yeah, I saw. I mean, as much it was more Victoria, buy a bit of land and sort of live out his dream.
yeah.
Um, I think that's the one.
Now, I guess I'd have to go back, and I didn't research. I thought that might be where you were going. Um, but I was gonna ask you, and you may not know this off the top of your head, but what players did the club bring in with the picks that they got for Jeremy Cameron?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because off the top of my head, I don't remember those. But
Because everyone says that we got three first round draft picks.
hmm.
Um, I remember the draft picks being quite mid range and late. So they weren't top end first round draft picks. And I'm pretty sure that draft was a pretty weak draft. So the players that we got for Jeremy Cameron, um, not very good.
Okay. So does sound like that might
So
actually be the legitimate mistake there. Yeah. So, looking at your start to the season, I mean, your first five games, you've got the Magpies, the D's, the Hawks, West Coast, and St. Kilda. And it's a bit of a mixed bag, but you've got, I think that the D's may be down a little bit this year. I think, West Coast is still building, St. Kilda, are they going to have, Max King back, and how is he going to be, contributing? They've got some really good young players there, but it's just, I worry about how they're going to score. Quite frankly, I worry about how Collingwood is going to score consistently also. They don't have I love Brody Myercheck. I think every club would love to have a Brody Myercheck on their list, but is he going to be somebody that's going to be, competing to win a Coleman as the as like the number one option for the biggest club in the comp. I don't see it.
Yeah, so the five games we've got: Collingwood, Melbourne, Hawthorn, West Coast, and St
And St
Kilda.
Kilda, yeah,
I mean, we're starting favourite in the first two games, Collingwood and Melbourne. Um, whether we win them, we're I'd say we're 70% chance of winning both of those.
yeah.
And then Hawthorn is a
Is in
different team
Tasmania, yeah.
down in Tasmania. They
Yeah.
play very well at Launceston. I actually went and watched them play against the Giants last year because I was living down in Tasmania, and
Okay.
I it was a very frustrating game.
Yeah.
The Hawks had a very good slingshot game, and we'd dominate. We'd keep the ball in our forward lines and couldn't score, and then all of a sudden, the ball would break loose, and the Hawks would take it up the other end and score. So hopefully, we've learnt from those games, and I can actually see Hawthorn dropping off a little bit this year because they're going to be more of a hunted team rather than them hunting. I think, yeah, I think they're going to drop off a little bit, and then West Coast and St Kilda. I mean, we should win both of those. So if we can start, if we can start 4-1, um, I'd be pretty happy,
Yeah. And you'd be
especially
ecstatic.
without Tom
Yeah.
Green.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Tom Green's expected to be back for that Hawthorn game in
Okay.
Tasmania.
Okay. Okay. So, um, you double up your double ups. It's a bit of a mixed bag there as well. I mean, you got St. Kilda, you got the Cats, you got the Swans, of course. You get the Eagles, the Bulldogs, and then the Suns. So you're getting a couple of the clubs that are kind of in the northern areas to maybe get people to traverse back and forth to local games. Or, of course, you got the hopeful rivalry there with the Swans as well. But it's you play who you're scheduled. But I mean, that's not an awful set of six sides that you're doubling up against. The Bulldogs are beat up right now.
Yeah,
The Swans, depending upon where you play them, how long is Errol Golden going to be out?
yeah,
That did not look good with his ankle the other day.
no,
No,
no. And I
not.
mean, playing the Cats down in Geelong, we usually win that game, so
You, you
we
know
can
what?
mark that as a win.
Well, lately and I know you're poking at me there, but you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. The Giants and Fremantle
yeah.
just seem to come down there and have the Cats number at home. And I don't know what it is, but it's just interesting that they seem to not play their best contest against those two sides there. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting how
So
certain teams match up against other
yeah,
teams, and
yeah.
yeah.
So what is your
What I
what is your go ahead?
what I will say is with the Giants have an unusual fixture because of the unavailability of their main home ground in Sydney. Right, so
Hmm.
we play opening round there, and then we play round four there. But then what happens in Sydney? They have the Royal Easter Show there at the Giants' home ground, and so essentially this is what Mason Cox was saying about the showgrounds.
Hmm.
The Giants literally have the showgrounds on their home ground. So we play there on April 6th, and then we don't play there again until May 17th. So there's 5 or 6 weeks where we don't play any games in at our home ground. We play one game in Sydney and we
Yep.
play a game at Canberra. So that's sort of through that period, we notoriously sort of go backwards a little bit, or we normally have an okay start to the season, then we slowly drop off a touch, and then we come home strong because we play a lot of games at NG Stadium in Sydney coming home
Right, right.
um, be because of that. So
Now,
that's sort of I don't know if Kingsley primes the players that way on purpose, but
yeah.
even last year in the preseason, he was saying that we we're going to build and build, and we want to be primed by the end of the year. So
So let me ask you this, and I don't know if this would be even be an option, but and you may not even want to even consider doing this, but could they, while I know you're playing, games in Canberra, I think what, 3 games each year down there?
Yeah.
Could, if could they possibly, if could there be a time where they ended up maybe playing a home game at the SCG, or is that like taboo? We're not going to do that. Swan supporters would
Yeah.
be there, picketing and protesting and such outside the stadium if that was to happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk about that.
Okay,
I don't like the idea. I
okay,
I just think we play, if it works out that during that period we play more away games, only to have more home games on the run home, then that's
right,
fine.
right.
Um, I'm happy with that. But yeah, I don't like the idea of playing in Sydney at SCG.
Okay, I mean that makes sense. I completely understand that. So um I have this is a two-parter here for you. So what is your bold prediction for the Giants this year? The thing that, Giant supporters are going to go, okay, I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on that, but I like it. Or maybe they don't like it. And then what is your bold prediction for the comp as a whole?
Good prediction. Um, can it be player related or club
Absolutely.
related?
Well, it
Okay, so
doesn't necessarily have to be in, how much trouble the social media group gets in trouble with the league or anything like that. You know.
so I think last year I was sort of pitting this on our podcast, and it didn't end up happening, but I'd love to see it happen. So Lecalier, do you know who Lecalier is?
I know the name. Yeah.
He's a
Yep.
Sudanese fella who was living in South Australia, and we
Hmm.
drafted him as a mature age. He actually broke the combine record for the one of the vertical leap tests, and he actually broke Nick Natanui's record in the vertical leap test. I'd love to if see him come into our team as a backup ruckman. So he's sort of been pitted as a intercept defender,
Yeah.
but I'd love to see him go in as a ruckman. So that's my prediction. Is he's going to he's only 194 centimeters, but he can jump like crazy
Hmm.
and cause headaches that way. So that's sort of my prediction.
Okay.
It's not real bold,
No, that's that. I
but
like that. I like that. I mean, you're figuring out a way to, as you mentioned earlier, to try to, alleviate the possible issues of, at the ruck position, and
yeah,
that's a good way to do it there. I mean, you're hoping, Kieran Briggs stays healthy, and it's not that he's going to necessarily be your number one guy, but when Briggs needs some time off the ground, this is maybe that guy you can plug in there and is going to be competitive.
yeah, yeah.
I like
And
that.
and the other thing I can see Jake Stringer kicking 40 plus goals.
Okay. Okay. So do you think Stringer's going to kick more goals than Toby Green this year?
I think he will because I think
Okay.
Toby Green's actually going to play more through the midfield.
Okay. I like that. And he's definitely, got that bull in a China shop kind of,
Yeah.
mentality to play the midfield. It's okay. All right. So, um, did you have a bold prediction for the comp itself? Is there,
For the
somebody you're
competition.
you're going to say that, this team is definitely not playing finals. This team is definitely playing finals. This coach is getting fired. This player is going to from club X to club Y, whatever the case may be.
All right. Well, I'll give you a couple.
Okay.
So I think, and it's kind of been speculated on already, but I think the changeover at Port Adelaide
Hmm.
with the coaches there, I think Ken Hinkley will resign or hand the reins over before, let's say, when's gather round? Round
That's
five. I
fairly
think
early.
he round five. I think he'll hand it over after round five
Okay.
to. And my other bold prediction is I think, and this is going against a lot of what other people think. I believe that Hawthorn will miss the eight.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. I have a couple that I think may miss the eight. And
Yeah,
They weren't one of them, but that wouldn't necessarily surprise me. They've got maybe a tougher draw this year than they had last year. Um, I've had this and I don't know why I have it, but I've kind of had this funny feeling about the Swans
Missing the eight.
missing the eight. Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean,
big.
bringing a new, new coach coming in. Just, I just have had this funny. And again, I can be completely wrong. I mean, usually when I make a, keep in mind, 2023, I tipped Todd Marshall to win the Coleman. So what the hell do I know?
Yeah. So Swans miss the eight, and then they lose Chad Warner at the end of the year.
There you go. Yeah, he's heading west, is he not?
Yeah,
He's
apparently.
already supposedly he's already bought investment property out there in near
Yeah,
Perth. But yeah,
yeah, smart move.
yeah. So, um, before we jump into a handful of trivia questions I have for you, how did your Never Surrender podcast come about? Where did that
Well,
come from?
my my involvement is actually I came a little bit later onto the scene.
Okay.
So I think it started with Sparrow and Needles, and then they had a couple of other mates that would throw in a bit of content, and they'd add their opinions and stuff like that. But I actually started out as a listener, and
Okay.
I'd write into them, and I'd write these. I'd go on a bit of a rant and um, about some of our players.
Hmm. Now,
And
were you living in Tasmania at that time?
I've been all over the place. So
Okay.
I've been South Australia, Tasmania. Now I'm in New South Wales, but um, so yeah, my involvement sort of started. Was it not last year or the year before? So um, yeah, that's sort of how my involvement's come about. And then as part of that, I last year I actually did quite a few songs. So I do like parody songs for some of the
Okay.
players,
Okay.
um, which was a bit of fun, and something I'm hoping to do this year as well. So yeah, it's always good fun.
Good deal. Good deal. So, are you ready for a little bit of Giants trivia before we
Uh,
wrap up?
we'll see
Have you
how we
been
go.
have you been studying?
No,
Okay. You don't need to. All right, you don't need to. Okay. So, I'm going to start you off with an easy one here. Okay?
okay,
These two Giants averaged more than 30 disposals per game last year.
yeah, Tom Green
Hmm.
and Lockie Whitfield.
There you go. 274 yards right down the middle of the fairway. So, okay. Here's another one. This is going to get you on the green here. You're about to go one under par. I don't know if you play golf or not, but
Yeah, I do a lot
okay.
of
I
golf.
I don't anymore. I haven't for about 25 years. I ripped my bicep in half when I was coaching and it never healed right,
Oh
so I can't
no,
I can't swing a club anymore. But I used to play 3 4 days a week before I had kids. So, behind Jesse Hogan and Toby Green, who was third in goals kicked for the club last year?
Jesse Hogan, Toby Green. It says it would be close. Um, I'm gonna go with Aaron Cadman.
It is Aaron Cadman. Yep. It is. Yep. He kicked, I believe, 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm,
Yeah, he kicked 30. Jake Riccardi had 26 after him.
yeah,
Okay, so you're 2 for 2. You're on the green
easy
about
putt for birdie.
about a 47-meter putt because you're on the edge of the green and it's
Oh
got a bit of a
no,
down. Okay, so here we go.
tough
Um,
one.
the club had 4 players with more than 100 tackles last year. Who were they?
I'd say Harry Perryman.
Nope.
No, wow,
Fix that divot before you putt again.
wow. Tom Green.
Tom Green is one. Yep.
Toby Bedford.
There you go.
I want to say Brent Daniels.
That's the third one.
Oh, crap. Callum Ward.
Kieran
No.
Briggs.
Kieran, true.
Kieran-
Yep.
Yep. Yep. That was your fourth in this. You got 3 out of 4 there. So you're about a meter and a half away from the hole. You're shooting for par
Okay.
now. Okay.
6 footer. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. So this player led the club with 7.171 percenters last year. And he also led the club the previous year. And
Brent Daniels.
we have not mentioned his name yet tonight.
Oh,
His name has not come up.
1%ers.
Hmm. I will give you a hint. It's usually a
Yeah.
defender. It's usually a defender.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say Jack Buckley.
There you go. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Okay. So we've got about what I think 5 more here. Oh well, one's kind of a combination question here. So these 4 players led the club with, and they played at least 18 games. Led the club with over 93% time on ground last year.
3 players,
There,
93%
four
time on
players.
ground.
4 players.
Is there a games threshold or just that's just the
I think
average?
18. I think 18 games. Let me check. I think 18 games um was the cutoff there. Let me make sure on that. I think it was 18 games. Yeah, it was 18 games. Yep.
Okay, and I'd say they're usually defenders as well. Um, I'm going to go Jack Buckley.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Sam Taylor played 18 games last
He
year.
did. He was the
Uh,
18 game person. Yep.
Okay.
The other 2 played
Uh,
25 and 24.
okay. Jesse Hogan?
Mm-mm.
No.
He was fifth.
Harry Himmelberg.
He was ninth.
Oh, who's fit? Lockie Whitfield.
No, he was 11th.
Oh no.
You're going the
Oh
wrong
no.
way.
Connor Ryden.
That he was third. And fourth may be surprising you, but if you really think about it, it won't surprise you.
Kieran Briggs.
Toby Green.
Toby. Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
just he'd never seemed to come off the ground. I mean, it was
Mm.
he was always he always is out.
Okay.
Okay,
Struggled a bit there.
that's all right. These 2 players should play their 250th game for the Giants exclusively this year.
Toby Green, Lockie Whitfield.
There you go. See, look at that, man. You hit 320 yards. Unfortunately, it was a par 3, so you hit it on. You hit it onto the next hole. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So, in the club's history, have the
Mhm.
Giants won more games at the MCG or at the Adelaide Oval?
Adelaide Oval.
9 wins and 22 losses at the MCG, 8 wins and 10 losses at the Adelaide Oval. So
Oh,
one
but better
game difference. But
percentage. Better
yeah,
percentage.
better. Yep, yep, much better percentage. Yep, yep. Okay. Now, I think you're going to get this one too. Who kicked more goals in their career with the Giants? Jeremy Cameron or Toby Green?
Jeremy Cameron
Yep. By a little over 50, 52 more. Yep. 427 to 375.
at the moment, yeah. So
Yeah.
Toby
Yeah.
might pass him this year.
Well, not unless Jake Stringer gets more than he does, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, last question. This is a two-parter, okay? Which Victorian-based club have the Giants defeated the most times in their career, and which Victorian-based club has the Giants lost to the most times in their history?
Okay. Defeated the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, North Melbourne.
Mm-mm.
No. Carlton.
It is Carlton.
Yeah.
So who have they lost to the most?
I want to say Collingwood.
Mm-mm.
Is it Geelong because you're a Geelong supporter?
It is not Geelong because I'm a Geelong supporter. Nope.
Oh wow. They lost to the most? It's not Collingwood or Geelong.
They've won. They've beaten this team 7 times and lost 13 times.
Wow.
I will tell you, Collingwood, they've beaten them 7 times and lost 9 times.
Okay. So we play them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Bulldogs.
There you go. It is the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have beaten them 7 times and lost 13, and you've lost 13 games to them. So
Yeah, we
7 out of
usually
20
have
there.
2 games against the Bulldogs a
Yeah.
year.
Well, because Collingwood, they're not, they're not supposed to travel. I mean, I
Yeah,
asked,
it's true.
I don't know how much time you spent in Melbourne.
Yeah,
But I've started joking now. You know where the community of Werribee is?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I've been joking recently whether or not Scott Pendlebury has ever been south of Werribee, because I don't think he's ever actually played a game in Geelong because
No, no.
heaven forbid the Magpies actually have to play an away game away from their park. Even though
Yeah.
it is it's just a little skinny cow paddock as they've liked to say there. So yeah, uh, so uh, this has been a lot of fun, sir. I appreciate
Yeah,
you
it's been good.
taking time out of your morning. Yeah, I actually there's in about a little less than 3 hours. There's 10 of us here in the U.S. We have our online fantasy draft tonight that we do on Zoom, and
Okay.
then one of the other American footy podcasters puts it up on his footy channel. He puts the Zoom call up there. So um,
You got a few
I'm pick.
Giants players pitted?
Well, I'm picking sixth. I've not really looked at it all that closely, other than I had a lot of success last year. I think I picked eighth last year, and we had 12 teams in the league last year. We're down to 10 this year, and I took Rowan Marshall. I got a ruck with my first pick, so
Wow. Yeah.
my plan is, well, he's dinged up right now. My plan is if he's there at pick six to take Tristan Sherry from the
Whew.
the Ruse as my
Not
number
Max
one
Gawn?
pick. No,
He's
I
in the
just worry
best
about.
shape of his life.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, which is why I probably won't even take him as my backup. Simply because of that. I
Yeah.
as much dysfunction is going on right now with Melbourne. I'm not going to be shocked if the day before round one starts, he decides he's going to change codes and start playing rugby instead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, all the best with your fantasy.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think I finished in fourth place last year, something like that. I made it into like the second or third round of the finals. But it was the previous year, the app wouldn't work for me. So I
Oh
couldn't maneuver
no.
so I'm here watching it and I like, here's who I want to pick, but it was not recognizing my computer. It would not actually let me select players. So
Oh no.
and it, I look back at it now and laugh, but I was so frustrated and everybody's just laughing at me because it was not working. So, but yeah, it was yeah, I did my first team. I have to go make some adjustments on it, I'm sure still, but I kind of have fun with it because I don't watch sports here. I mean,
Okay.
I watched the Cleveland Browns just out of morbid curiosity anymore. I don't know if you follow the NFL at all, but
No, no.
they've been bad. And I watch a couple. There's like two college football teams that I watch. That's it for American sports. That's all I watch.
Okay. And Aussie
I
rules.
watch footy, and I've really gotten into cricket over the last like
Okay.
3 years. So
Okay. I'm
I
heavy into cricket as
yeah,
well.
to the point where that's sitting on my shelf right next to me there. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
nice.
and that's my Cricket for Dummies book for those of you who are listening. I actually had the author of that book on my podcast last year before. He's one of the people that helped to get the Major League Cricket here in the U.S. up off the ground.
Okay.
And there's a lot of
Okay.
Australian players that come and play in that.
Yeah. So when are you
So
when are you making the move down to Geelong?
uh, definitely not doing that. I was The plan was to come this year. I was going to be there between rounds 19 and 22. So
Okay.
I'm a school teacher, so I can't really go in the first half of the year because the school year is still going on.
Mm.
We don't leave this. Our school year's not done till the end of May, and then we
Yeah.
start back up like the third week of August. Um,
Right.
but had marked out the time that I was going. I was going to get to see the Cats play 3 times at home, not against the Giants, so they did have a shot at winning them. But and then once at Marvel. But my wife was back in October. My wife was diagnosed with cancer, so um, yeah, it's turned out, yeah, she's doing okay. She's into her last couple rounds of chemo right now. But I just want to make sure everything's okay with her. So I'm pushing it back until the trip back until I know everything is okay with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
No, that's
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
That's
So it's
fair. Well, all the best with that and to your wife. And yeah, it's been
so
fun.
this has been wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time out, and you guys are your group, and like I said, I've talked to Sparrow. I've had the opportunity to talk to you now. You guys are both great guys that you're passionate about your club, and I've not gone back and listened to any of your songs, so I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can find a couple of those to
Yeah.
listen to in the
Try and
background.
try and find the I forget which episode it is, but I did a Hallelujah for Toby Green.
Okay, I will look for that one and see if I can find that one. All right.
I'll
Well,
try and find it and I'll send it through to you on
okay.
Twitter.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my guest for this episode has been Ragnar, not his real name, and I'm not going to reveal his real name because he's in the witness protection program from Bolivia, I believe, uh, from the Never Surrender by the Squinters podcast. And Ragnar, thanks so very much. I wish your club the absolute best of luck, except for 2 games this year.
Okay.
I hope they fall flat on their face twice this year, to be completely frank with you. Okay. But have a great day and enjoy this week. It's officially footy season now, and
Yeah.
I won't be sleeping at all because the Cats play this week, and their first bounce is at 3:50 a.m. before my school day
Ooh,
starts, and I will
that's
be up
brutal.
to I will be up to watch it. So my kids will have a lot of busy work to do during the school day. No, they won't.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll keep them busy. But there's always a game on in the mornings when they come into my classroom. So I've kind of shown them the little what is AFL things. I get new kids every year. If you
Yeah.
see it, I just want you to know what you're watching there, guys, so you have an understanding of what's going on with this. But hey,
Yeah.
have a great day, man. I appreciate it, and best to you and yours.
Thank you. You too.
You bet. Cheers. All right, Ragnar. Hey, thanks so very much for sitting down and chatting with me. This was a lot of fun. Um, I know we set this one up a while back, and I'm truly appreciative that you were able to carve out some time to sit down and chat. Folks, there you have it. There are now all 18 episodes from my previews for 2025 that are out. If you've not listened to your favorite clubs yet, I hope you'll go back and do so. And also check out your favorite rival, that club you love to hate. We've all got one, don't we? I don't, but you do because you've been following the game forever and it's in your DNA. Now, folks, remember you can find everything about the podcast at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I do hope you'll subscribe. I do hope you'll get on the mailing list so when new episodes come out. If you love the show, and I hope you're checking it out, and I hope you do love it, please consider leaving a review on the podcast website as well. You can do, there's a review button right on the top. Gives me some credibility with, let's be honest, there's more than one skeptical Australian that's looking at this and going, wait, there's Americans talking about our game? Yeah. If you haven't checked out Shannon Gill's piece on how the VFL found its way onto ESPN back in the 1980s, you definitely want to do that because he did a fantastic job with that. So, again, all my links for my different socials, whether it be on X at Yank_on or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, all of those are on my website. Okay. I do hope you'll share the episodes with your friends and family as well. Send them the link to my website. Okay. Tell them about this crazy American who loves your game and is so appreciative of the fact that you're sharing it with myself and other crazed American footy fans as well. Now, folks, look out for one another. Check up on your friends and family. Make sure they're okay. If you need to talk to somebody, please reach out and talk to them. Okay. The world's a much better place with you in it. We all have things that we're dealing with. I've been dealing with quite a few things that I'm trying to get through. Um, I've been back struggling with my weight a little bit. Uh, Part of that can be attributed to all of the things that have gone on here in the last several months, plus me just being lazy as far as tracking the stuff that I'm eating. But I'm working on getting back into it uh, because I do want to be at my absolute best when I finally do get to come to Australia. But like I said, those numbers for talking to someone are in the show notes of every single episode. So if you need to call somebody, okay, they're there. every single time. Like I said, the world's a much better place with you in it. And folks, this has been episode 378. Be looking for my 2025 ladder prediction episode, which will be coming out very, very soon before round zero. And as always, ladies and gents, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. This was episode 378. And until next time, cheers and goodbye.